A lot of the requirements on these are typically wish list items, and they're completely ridiculous on most of them. And I'm going to walk you through a couple of job postings that I selected to go over in this video. What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope that everybody has had an awesome weekend. Thank you for joining me today. I want to help you make your job search a little bit easier, especially if you are a junior developer with no experience on your resume. Navigating the job boards when you don't have any experience is hard enough as it is, especially because it always seems like there is actually no such thing as a junior developer job. This makes it so much harder to convince yourself that it's even worth your time to apply because you already feel like you're just going to get rejected. And I'm here today to kind of tell you that that is not always entirely true, and to kind of help you navigate that wish list of requirements that you see on almost every job application that's out there. Also, a quick shout out to my wife for recoloring my hair today. It was looking a little faded, so got this sweet purple look going on now. Looks so much better. Thank you to her for taking the time out of her day to color my hair. But back to the video. You may have noticed that I used the keyword wish list, and that's exactly what most of, and by most of, I mean at least 80% of these jobs that you see listed on job boards, whether it's Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, wherever you're seeing your job applications at, or your job postings. A lot of the requirements on these are typically wish list items, and they're completely ridiculous on most of them. And I'm going to walk you through a couple of job postings that I selected to go over in this video, and I'm going to kind of point out some things in these and talk about why these specifically are things that I think are perfectly fine for a junior developer, even one with no experience on your resume, to go ahead and submit an application to, because I still think that you would stand a perfectly fine chance of landing a job for this position, provided you actually got an interview and performed well in the interview. All right, so the first job listing that I want to go over is this one right here. So this is for a React.js developer. Obviously, a expectation of this is that you would know React, obviously based on the job title. Just to be a little more specific here, I actually, when I was searching for my first developer job, I actually applied for a React.js developer position that had higher requirements than this, and I went through 3 rounds of interviews with that company prior to getting ghosted. So if you think that because of these requirements you can't get this job with no experience in the industry, you would be absolutely wrong, because companies are willing to take a chance on people if you come off as somebody that they may be interested in hiring. These years of experience and things are very lenient, and a lot of the times they are wish lists. So looking at the actual job listing itself, right, we're not so much concerned about salary. We know that this is a full-time job. One thing that's kind of interesting to look at here is that it says number of hires for this role. You don't see this on every job application, but this is interesting because they're looking to hire multiple people. It says 2 to 4 people here. So this is something that will also play to your advantage, because maybe you don't know this, but maybe that company is looking to hire 2 senior people and 2 more junior people that can, get up to speed given the time. So, this is something that may allude to the fact that they could be more willing to work with you on your years of experience, provided they have other people that are coming into this position as well that may have a little bit more experience than you. All right, now let's look at the actual qualifications that they're asking for this position. So they're asking for 3 years of experience with JavaScript, 2 years of experience with React.js, US work authorization, and high school equivalent, which is good because it means that they're not very concerned with things like bachelor's degrees or anything like that. Now, it does say required on here, and the only thing that I have to say about this is that sometimes, depending on how they have their application tracker set up for their HR department, there's a chance that they're using like an ATS tracker, which if your application says, when you apply for the job, if it says that you have anything less than these years of experience, it will automatically filter out your application. But there is absolutely no guarantee that that is actually how their ATS, if they even use one, is actually set up. And I'll go into a little bit more about how you can possibly get around that if it ends up being set up like that. But you'll never actually know, because if you get rejected right off the bat, they're either going to ghost you or they're not going to tell you why. So you won't actually know that that's the reason that you were possibly rejected if you are. And another thing that I want to say about the 2 and 3 year experience required mark, anything you see that says 2 to 3 years of experience is required for a developer job, assume that that is a junior position, because it is pretty rare that you're going to find any type of job listing that actually says anything less than 2 or 3 years of experience required. It's almost like a myth that there's a such thing as a junior developer job listing. Some listings will even say in the job title junior developer, but the experience still wants like 5 years of experience or something like that, something crazy like that, and it's completely unrealistic. So this is just like think of it as like a placeholder, like they just had to put something there. But if it says 2 or 3 years of experience, you should absolutely apply to that job. As I mentioned before, I applied to a React.js developer position that I went through 3 rounds of interviews for, and they wanted 5 years of JavaScript experience and 3 years of React experience. And that's actually, you may recall the video that I did recently, if you already subscribed to my channel, where I posted the audio for an entire job interview that I did over the phone. I posted the audio for that interview, and I will link that up here in the top corner. But that was that very position. They wanted experience that I definitely didn't have in the industry as far as like years of experience, but they gave me a fair shot, and they gave me 3 interviews, including an interview with 6 of their engineers and their engineering director. So you really just never know, and you should absolutely always apply to the job if you're interested in it. Scrolling down further, we're not super concerned with the job description. If this was actually a job I was going to apply to, I'd be a little more interested in this. It says they're seeking front-end developers with 2+ years of professional experience. So that kind of comes back down to up here, like their numbers don't even really fully match up. Coming down further, they're looking for front-end developers with 2 to 3 years of experience in the field. So see, like there's already a lot of inconsistencies here in their job listing itself. So that kind of just further leads me to think that it was most likely not a developer that threw this together. It was probably somebody in HR, which is generally the case. Further down, we have more requirements. Okay, CSS, HTML, JavaScript, React.js. These are pretty much like absolute bare minimums for any type of job that you're going to apply to today. Honestly, you should already know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript before you even get into React.js. So if you know React, I would definitely assume that you already know those other technologies, unless you're somebody like Chow Codes who learned React before he learned JavaScript, which was a very interesting way. And I think he's to date the only person that I actually know that's ever gone that path instead of learning JavaScript first. Those people would be the exception to that, but for the most part, I would assume that you already understand those other technologies. And I also want to make a quick side note here for since we are still in the COVID-19 era, sometimes you will see stuff like this on job applications. Most jobs right now, their interview processes are entirely remote. And if you're lucky, the job itself is also entirely remote. This was the case with all of the applications that I did in late 2020 with all of my job applications. The whole process was remote. I did onboarding in person, but I've been working remote ever since. And this is going to be a fairly common experience that you're going to see throughout the industry as as we navigate this COVID-19 time. Most of the industry, I think, is remote right now entirely. Some of them temporarily, some of them permanent, but we'll just have to see how that plays out in the long run. But it's something to keep in mind. you want to work remote, now is the best time to get started in that. All right, so getting into our second job listing, we're going to look at this front-end developer position by Deloitte, I think. I never really learned how to pronounce that. So what we're gonna focus on here is, if we come down to their job requirements, it says bachelor's degree and at least 2 years of professional experience in engineering or software application development. This sounds like they're absolutely not going to take anybody that doesn't have a degree, but what I would tell you to do is apply anyways if this was a position that interested you. And the reason I say that is, while it says bachelor's degree is required, there's a chance that an ATS, applicant tracking system, may filter you out if you say in your application that you don't have a degree, but there's no guarantee that it will actually filter you out. And I kind of mentioned before, there's kind of a way to circumvent this, and the way that you can kind of go about doing that is that once you fill out this application, go to LinkedIn and look up the company, and then find somebody who works there. Find an HR rep, a recruiter, find somebody that works at that company, and send them an introduction message with your resume and cover letter, and tell them, you know, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm a software engineer. I just applied to this position. I'm very interested in learning more about it. I would love to set up a phone call or something like that. Show them that you have the initiative and that you are highly interested in that position. And this is something that got me moved up in a lot of application processes, just because I showed the initiative and I reached out to somebody. There's a lot of interviews that I got just by doing that I would not otherwise have had. It does not work every time, but it definitely raises your chances of getting that interview. And even if later they turn you down, you know, over like not having a degree or something like that, which I think once you get to the interview process, they're probably less likely to turn you down for that, because they already know ahead of time before they invited you to interview that you don't have one. And I don't think that they would go as far as to do an interview with you and waste their time if they already know that you don't have a degree. So there's a very real possibility that you can get around a degree requirement on an application if you reach out to somebody in HR. So keep that in mind when you're applying to jobs if you see that. And honestly, I recommend reaching out to somebody at the company regardless of whether or not you're concerned about that requirement, because requirements or not, you can still get bumped up in application processes just by reaching out to people. It works. I've done it and I highly recommend it. But again, looking at the experience requirements on this actual job listing, if you ignore the bachelor's degree requirement, pretty much everything on here is asking for about 2 years of experience minimum, which to me means entry level. So you should absolutely apply to this job. Honestly, anything under like 5 years of experience, you stand a possible chance of getting an interview or a job offer. Anything from 2 to 3 years or less, I'd say your chances go up even further, because those seem to be even more geared towards juniors. So at only asking for 2 years of experience, that's a very real like junior opportunity, and I would say that you would be a very real candidate for a position like this. You can see they're asking for like HTML, CSS, Sass, 2 years experience with a modern framework in JavaScript, that's like React, Angular, Vue. Basic understanding of server-side languages like Node, PHP, Python. And when they say things like this, they don't mean you have to know all of these. Most people are probably just gonna know like Node because that's one of the more popular ones right now. So if you have a basic understanding of at least one of these, I would apply. Even if you don't understand any of these, but you have the experience in, you know, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and a framework, like apply anyways. Because you can pick up, fairly quickly some server-side concepts with like Node.js or something like that. I mean, you can pretty easily pick that up over the course of like a month or two, especially since this is not actually a position geared towards a back-end engineer. I think they really just want you to probably understand a little bit about that concepts of where your data is coming from when you're working on the front end. And I think that's really about it. And then obviously they want you to be comfortable with version control, which that's going to be like any job. Most jobs if not all, are gonna have some sort of expectation that you know how to work with some sort of versioning system like Git. That's pretty much a given. The real key takeaway here is if a job is asking for 2 to 3 years of experience, you stand a very real chance of getting an interview for that job. Same goes for getting an actual job offer from it. And this is by no means like a guarantee that you're going to get that offer or that invite to interview. It's still going to take a lot of applications and a lot of legwork to get to that point, but I'm trying to help guide you in the direction to understand what job postings you actually stand the most chance of getting that invitation for. I'm not telling you to go out and apply for senior level positions, although you can absolutely do that. Maybe they've had a senior position listed for 2 months and they're not getting any good candidates, and then they're willing to consider somebody more junior and maybe save themselves some money. You should absolutely apply for those as well if you're interested. Worst thing they can say is no, and you spent an extra 30 minutes to put in another application. But that's really it, guys. It's that simple. Just don't hesitate to apply for a job just because they're asking for a couple years of experience. This is a wish list. If you match probably like 3 or 4 things that's listed on a job application, you should probably apply to it. And I say that not counting years of experience requirements. I'm just talking like technology requirements. But that's really it, guys. That's it. So with all that being said, I hope that you found this video helpful today. I wish you all best of luck in finding that first position if you haven't found it already. If you did recently find a position or you found this helpful, please drop a comment below. Also be sure to smash that like button. Love when you guys do that. It definitely helps boost my videos in the rankings so that more people can find my content and I can try to provide more value to my viewers. If you enjoyed this video and you've checked out some of my other content, please consider subscribing to the channel. But with all that being said, that's all I have for you guys today. Enjoy your week. Until next time, guys.